is one of the most beloved grapplers specifically in the anime genre. He's been through a lot of changes, and I'm going to dive deep into what he gained, lost, and shaped to become the character he is today. When going through the roller coaster of Potemkin, you went from abysmal dog to absolute cinema. Covering him as a character and finding out we made him busted or we made him trash will be a fun ride. What's up fellas, Patriarch Panda here, and I'm back with my family and all that good stuff. We got a setup and all that, and this chair goes all the way back. It's been making editing a lot easier, I'll tell you that much. I get to chill whilst doing all that good stuff. Be sure to subscribe, we're trying to have 3,000 subs, that way I'll work on the Iron Tiger video. Again, this is a thing that I've been trying to set up for ages. And again, I've been working on new vids, and you guys told me that I should work on this for the voting system. Thank you very much, fellas, for helping me out. I was stuck, I was confused, I was paused. And I'm also working on a fun concept idea for like tag supers and Strive, but that's a conversation for another day. But let's get into his first debut by taking a look at the game Missing Link. Yeah, winning son. Missing Link was that game that was broken beyond belief, with every character having an infinite besides one. This game was the beginning of Guilty Gear, so it was limited in the things that shaped the franchise forever. There was no burst, tension, roaming cancel, or even a dust button. There was dust attacks, just not a button. The game had taunts and runs like a usual Guilty Gear game. It also had FD. By holding down back respect taunt, you could FD the opponent. So it was essentially like a really watered down version of Guilty Gear that we're used to playing nowadays. But let's get into the sad part, fellas. Potemkin. To start us off, I'm not even gonna hype this guy up, despite the fact he looks cool and has one of my more favourite designs of the character. He sucks. This is the dust look. Bro can't. That's all it just says can't at the bottom. That tells you everything you need to know immediately. Everything just sucked on Potemkin. His moves are very different to what they are now, but I suppose we should dive into them. It's not a very funny hee hee ha ha flying move yet, or Heat Knuckle, or the goated Hammer Fall. He only had Potemkin Buster, Mega Fist, Slide Head, a vastly different version of Slide Head. He had a move that didn't carry over whatsoever, and that was Nitro Hook, which was this kind of cool command grab where you kind of yeet the opponent in low gravity. It was kind of cool. Let's dive into his kit and some of the aspects that absolutely suck doo-doo stinky balls, and how one of them were actually kind of solid to use. Command grab was frame 1 okay damage compared to other Potemkin Buster. So the Potemkin Buster was actually a really good defensive tool in this game. On guard cancel, this was a god tier defensive option that led to okay with a punch. Get this. It had no whiff recovery, meaning you would just do a jab if the opponent wasn't close enough. Potemkin Buster was probably the best command grab in the entire Guilty Gear franchise, but with the weakness of being attached to Missing Link Potemkin. He couldn't use it on offense, his reach was difficult and throw protection is hard to get by, and getting into that space didn't happen with Missing Link Potemkin. It was like having an up-to-date air freshener in a piss-covered Asmongold room. In the end, the room is still reeking of piss and dead rats. Like mentioned before, he had Neutral Hook, which was a cool neutral throw option. It had iframes in the start, but not on frame 1. So in defense, Potemkin Buster instead of this, and its damage in Oki was worse, so you'd use Potemkin Buster on offense. It whiffed on crouchers sometimes, and the best strat was to use the insta-kill after whiffing this due to it having no recovery and a ton of active frames. Moves sucked, but it was a cool idea. You kind of used it to get by fireballs, but besides that, it was just piss. Let's talk about Mega Fist, and in this game, you want to spam it more than any other version of Mega Fist, because it was your only tool. You want to spam only forward Mega Fist, because back was awful. Actually quite decent in overhead, neutral, and hit. However, back was -5 on block, and forward was +8. Like, how does that happen? How do you design the forward one to be plus? It makes no sense to me. It genuinely makes no sense. So spamming forward was your best neutral option. However, again with the howevers, I want you guys to take a drink every time I say however in this portion of the video. It was always an aerial hit, meaning it attacked and led to no rewards. Awesome. You should still spam it though. It's goofy and probably the best Mega Fist he's ever had, besides rewards. So you go wild. The last special was Slide Head, but in this game it actually had a very unique and different property. It was called Gravitation Stamp. This tool was done with a DP input, which is vastly different to today's one, and it was an unblockable with 3 charges to it. You'll never see the third one, and 1 and 2 were easy to whip punish, so you never use this in general. And on hit, you will get teched and die. The opponent could tech this after taking the hit, and if they missed the tech window, you did get Oki, but they were going to tech it, because this is a 30-year-old game. And nerds exist. They had this figured out. So you died if it hit, and you died if it whiffed. Welcome to Missing Link Potemkin, guys! He also had another throw attached to a special move on 6K, and it was called Slam. The thing is, though, the developers couldn't program a second throw input, so they just made it a normal. And if that normal didn't happen, because I had no whiff recovery, you would just do 5K. So, awesome. You also had a command normal being 6p, which was this move. All the XX heads are like, that's the overhead. And I'm here to say, no it isn't, you dummy, you dumbass, you dumb This is a mid! No thick fast chuckle nuts for the XX players.
Fast chuckle nuts!
Yeah, check out his close slash. He's hitting him with that boy. Jab comes out in 10 frames, so your best Abari option was 2H because it came out in 6 frames. And that was it. You couldn't Abari for shit with this character. Let's talk about a super that was never used again, and that's a little upsetting because it was kinda cool. Gigantic Piston was a punch super that did chunky damage, and Desperation is how you gotta use this. When at low health, you had infinite supers. Imagine that in Strive. Okay, maybe don't. It's counter zoning with no iframes, kills projectiles sometimes. You're supposed to use it as an anti-zoning tool, but besides that, it wasn't that represented unless Desperation. Then you let it rip. But yeah, his insta-kill was Nuclear Hammer, which had a very lame animation, but this was decent on air for knocking the fella out. So you want to use your insta-kill as more of an anti-air rather than a combo tool like everybody else in the roster. I think the section's just sad, because the game known for bullshit, the character that we had didn't have any of it, besides funny Mega Fist move. That's about it. I think the baseline for Potemkin is here though. He had some cool ideas like massive normals, nasty command grabs, slow movement we know him for. He just needed something to help him with that problem. I would say this version of Potemkin is cool, but very terrible in terms of what he can do. Time to go to the next game! Time for a midnight carnival. We got more pixels! Welcome to Plus R, which was the other version of Guilty Gear I love playing Potemkin in. That and Order Sol. I just want to vortex my dragon until I install. I'm solving it. With Accent Core came all the mechanics that we all know and love, like tension, roaming cancel, burst, insta-kill, install, guts, refined gatlings, and insta-blocks, which made you be in block stun for a short amount of time, so if something was -2, you can make it neutral and block. It's our turn, comrade. There was a version of Accent Core that had the strongest Potemkin ever seen by human eyes. God, that would burn the retinas. A being of celestial caliber. We're not covering him today. I want to cover the most up-to-date version of Accent Core being Plus R, but I recommend checking out this version done by Frankentank, who covered the character in a version of Accent Core where he was busted. And I'll put it simply for people that won't check out the video, which is just rude by the way. Gigantor Kai unblockable loops. Yeah, let's get into Plus R Potemkin and how he was awesome. His strengths got a ton better with a ton of people putting Potemkin about the mid-tier balance, meaning he was a solid competitor that required you to use skill to win. To get started, they made him beefy. They also gave you godlike normals to use. 2S was an insane normal in the game due to it being a combo star, pulling the opponent in is only -2 on block. Paired out with the new approach tool he got, solves all of Potemkin's problems of having no BS whatsoever. Welcome Hammerfall, the scrub tool that has saved us in many defensive sequences. Comes out, frame 1 armor, speeds across the floor, and causes knockdown on hit. It also gives you a combo opportunity with RC. The move couldn't get better. It got better. We're also welcome to Break, which was a tool that could make moves go from minus to neutral. 2S paired with Hammerfall Break was neutral and block. This means it's our turn, comrade. So 2S mixed with Hammerfall created one of the coolest scenarios for the coolest command grab in all of fighting games. It kills life bars, gives a combo, has insane reach, comes out in 3 frames, meaning it could win in scramble scenarios, and it builds meter. You could also backdash into it. 20 frame invo. Welcome to the beginning of the cult part, bros. You were given Potemkin Buster, which was a godly tool of a command grab. But yeah, don't whiff it though, you will get punished. But you're probably wondering, can it get better from missing Link? Dude, it's missing Link. Sleeping outside and getting mugged is 100 times better than living in the house festering with diseases, stench of raw ass to wake you up in the morning. Of course it gets better. Another tool that gave Potemkin a ton of personality and a ton of usage was Flick. FDB was a sick new special that would flick back most projectiles to clap back with. It was so sick. I mean, who looks at a Dukin, says, that's cute, pew! It had long startup, but it was +2, meaning it can be used for stagger after buttons, but on frame 4 to 14, it can reflect a projectile right back out. He's too godly, how does it get better? Is that an explosive gauntlet? Yes, comrades. We're seeing the character that we recognize. The shape was finally made. It's him. It's my beautiful boy. Heat Knuckle was an unblockable tool in the game that led to a hard knockdown. The damage was good and it was a decent anti-air that could hit instant air dashes. It can also chase jump outs for a 50-50 with Potemkin Buster. With meter you can make it safe on whiff if you were wrong. You could also do extend if you thought it was going to kill. I wish this was something that Stripe Potemkin kept. Stripe Potemkin makes it so you automatically do extend, whereas here you could choose for Oki or damage. Genius. Do you want a cool combo tool that has one of your coolest animations attached to it? Welcome, Aerial Potemkin Buster. It wasn't a throw, but it was a combo tool that led to nasty damage. It's tough to use, but look at all that sauce! You also had this tool Judge Gauntlet. It was like an armor parry that gave a hard knockdown. That's about it. These two tools also use 25 meters, so you had to have 25 halfway to RC if you wanted to have access to the Aerial Potemkin Buster for combos, and if you wanted a parry that used armor. Mega Fist became what it is today, plus going back and minus going forward. It was also super evasive, and Slide Head became funky. That's right, Slide Head is now what we kind of recognize today in terms of X-Sword. It was a little weird. Yeah, it had 2 hits, one being a low up close and the other one being an unblockable shockwave. So if it was up close you had a low, and if they were far away you had an unblockable the opponent had to instant air dash. It also gave hard knockdown, giving Potemkin the Oki that we recognize today. Okay, last thing to cover is supers. They were here, we have them now, we didn't gain any others on the way up. Gigantic was made, which was the wall tool, but it wasn't too active, right? It was kind of like a very shortly timed Aegis Reflector. But this was a DP super. It could be grabbed, but if it hit, it led to insane damage and stun. You had meterless follow-ups where you could do a reference to a show Frankie Tank knows very well. This was a damage tool only. You want to use Gigantor on defense, but on offense, it can be good for combo extensions. It was time for the other super that we all know very well. We all know and love, and I'm just saying to that chipmate, get the fuck out of my sky! This was the first heavenly we got, and it made for sauce and mental reads that made people think that you should just hit the slot machines with those reads. Using this as an anti-air was mostly the play because using it in combos wasn't optimal, and in a 20-year-old game, you gotta have opties. It could whiff randomly though, it was kinda a little inconsistent, but besides that, we got it. It's the anti-air super we all know and love. Oh yeah, we also got a Zensa kill. Use it in dizzy scenarios. That's it. That's all the advice. That's all I can say. There's not much to it. It's an instant kill. Does it give Oki? No. Does it do a ton of damage? It's called kill. That's it. Accent Core Potemkin was so cool because it shaped the character that we recognize. They also made him very balanced with having clear weaknesses and clear strengths that the players loved playing to. They also had fun execution things to do, like try to set up the Aerial Potemkin Buster. When it comes to rating him, I'd give him 5 big zips. My favourite classic Guilty Gear character to play, but the sad thing is, does it get better from here moving on to the next game? I don't think it does. Xrd was released and I'm specifically going to talk about the Rev 2 edition. Xrd is a cool game that revamped Guilty Gear with a wicked sick nasty 3D model style, using an anime style that was never explored before and with 3D models. This game was the beginning of good looking anime 2D fighters using 3D models, so thanks to this boy, when you're playing any of these games, you have to thank Xrd. I want you to get down on your fucking knee. The mechanics were still the same, they carried over all the good stuff, but they also added some new ones. They also added YRC, which was a cancel that allowed you to stop a move you were doing or setting up, allowing for 25-meter fireballs you can walk with. You can also use some of your bursts to do stronger damage versions of your supers. Hellfire was added, which made supers do more damage if your health was lower. Risk was added. This made blocking not fun for some weaker characters, leading to higher damage combos when getting hit. Another mechanic was Blitz Shield. Blitz Shield is a thing that lets you get hit and then strike back, kinda like using a focus attack in Street Fighter 4. The longer you hold it, the attack would be powerful. Lastly, there was a party mode mechanic that everybody knows very well, where if you clashed a normal with an opponent, there was a 30% chance that you'd go into a thing called Danger Time. Both players would get 25 meter, and every hit became a mortal counter. So TOD scenarios from the Mario Party clash. The base game mechanics were extremely questionable to be added, and I liked the ideas, but I didn't think the game needed everywhere minigames. Also, YRC just made some characters like busted and unfun to fight. In my opinion, when people look back at Accent Core with fondness, I get all warm and fuzzy knowing they're thinking of a good game. When they look back at this game, I give them the sus eyebrow in terms of gameplay. Beautifully made game though. This game looks beautiful, not for me entirely though. But time to talk about how Potemkin fell from grace yet again. Potemkin, by a large majority of high levels that both played him and played against him, consider him to be one of the worst characters in the game alongside Axel, Bedman and Zao. In terms of visual design, I think this is my least favourite look that Potemkin rocked. He looks small and doesn't feel very intimidating. Compared to Stripe Potemkin, he looked like his malnourished little brother. Besides visual design, I think he looks sick in general, but time for the sad part, diving into his toolkit, which in general was actually quite solid, but there were some things that he was missing that held him back. Potemkin got 2 new special moves to expand his toolkit, and a new normal. 6k, a class normal for Potemkin again. This was genuinely a great normal. It covers a good bit of screen, and with the Hammerfall break, it becomes +2. 6k becomes a pressure tool now, allowing for it to start a turn. But watch out for IBs though. Those IBs can turn it into a neutral scenario. For catching jumps and near the wall, the opponent gets wall splatted for a pickup. This leads to his new special, Trishula? Hope I'm saying that right. This tool can be used as a weird anti-air, but where it's amazing was 6k loops in the corner. Tough tool to use, but in combos it leads to dopamine receptors kicking up to a 20. The other new special move he got was ICPM. This move is very unsafe to use in neutral, but on hit and in combos, it can lead to a ton of corner carry, and leads to you taking the corner for solid Oki. If you YRC the start up, you can use it as like a flying forward thing. Kinda like you're diving in to take a turn. His new tools were cool. Hammerfall and Flick basically were unchanged. And with Slide Head keeping the low and the unblockable. Yeah, Potemkin Buster almost stayed the exact same as well. Not many changes. You even get a combo and everything. Except there are a few things that got changed that affected Potemkin heavily coming into this game. Mega Fist stayed the same, but on hit, it was minus, meaning if you hit the opponent, you could be throw punished. So you can thank this Potemkin for Strive having that on launch. His mid-screen combo game got so much weaker. He had Aerial, Potemkin, Buster and Accent Core to carry that damage and Oki potential. This disappeared. It vanished. There was no more dust specials. You didn't have that option presented, so Potemkin had to work with whatever hit he got. His Heat Knuckle in terms of combos was also the worst thing ever. When doing Heat Knuckle and Extend, they both sent the opponent flying. What did this mean? Well, in Accent Core, when you didn't do the Extend, the opponent would drop down in front of you, giving you a turn. But in this game, they always shoot away no matter what. So you had to always do Extend. There was no reason to never not do Extend, unless you had meter. If you wanted Oki, you had to RC. Most of the time, using Heat Knuckle as a combo ender always led you back to going neutral, and in a game where you're playing a big boy up against characters like Boss, Johnny, Elfel, and Venom, who were top tier, have fun trying to get in though, Oki boy. His attacks were slow and whiff punishable. This stayed the same. Like, it made it very hard to play a poking game in a game full of almost full screen tools like Dizzy with Fish. 2S also lost his vacuuming effect, so it means you have to go into 6k Gatling every time to go for either flick or hammer fall to try and stay safe. Gigantor Kai got buffed, so it was a bit better of a super, but it wasn't the wall that we have in Strive. The follow-up still existed though, still dealing a ton of damage and a good way to end a round. Heavenly hitbox was about the same, and so it was still inconsistent. The damage and the combo ender stuff is great. Since Aerial Potemkin Buster disappeared, this was the optimal. It was awesome still having this tool to represent. It was still the Heavenly that we all know and love. So the problem with XR Potemkin was lack of mid-screen combos and Oki scenarios. He needed the corner as much as he could possibly get it. And in this game, that didn't happen as often as he wanted it to. On defense, he had good options though. And in neutral, you can kinda poke, but besides that, he had an insanely difficult time. The main thing that also held him back is that a lot of characters coming into this game got crazier tools that let him do crazier things. Potemkin didn't really carry any BS. If anything, he left the BS in the previous game. He did keep backdash Potemkin Buster though. Pretty iframe. His most annoying plays could come from defense, and if defense is where you're the most annoying, it meant that you weren't annoying anywhere else. So Potemkin was probably the best in defense in this game due to his iframes and Potemkin Buster coming out in free frames and all that. But at the end of the day, the best defense went to frame 1 Potemkin Buster and Missing Link, which is very smelly. This version of Potemkin, I'd give him 3 big zips, and I do think he was kind of well done. It's just he needed something. He needed that Oki, he needed mid-screen, and he was too meter reliant and he was too corner reliant. He had to play defense way too often, and his damage was fairly good though, I will give him that. Costume change. Now, I didn't know where to really throw this, so I kind of figured I'd throw it a bit like the Strive section. So if you guys have been enjoying the video, be sure to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And I'm trying out more membership things. I feel like I want to upload more preview stuff for you guys, for the people that are like really into it and really want to support me. Right now, money's been a bit of a rough patch right now. Try to get into World of Work and all that after moving back, so you know, it'd be greatly appreciated. You guys don't need to do it, but it would mean a ton if you guys supported me in that manner. But let's get into the game that made me a Potemkin main. This generation's doomed. Strive, one of the most beautiful looking anime fighters and probably the most beautiful modern looking fighter game to date. They didn't rely on the nice graphics that something like Tekken had or something like Street Fighter had, but relied mostly on a stylized art style that focused and make the game look more like an anime movie. Like the proper good 3D ones that have the insane quality, like the Lupin the Third movie and all that stuff. Try to keep that stylized look. Everything was beautifully animated. Look at any part of a model and you'll just see animation. That's how cool this game looked. In this game, I was looking forward to playing Leo because that's who I played in XR due to Potemkin feeling so stiff and crappy. In this game, I had the reverse. I went from playing Leo and felt like Leo was stinky and crappy, but Potemkin felt beautiful. Brought me back in. On launch, he remained weak, but I'm not going to cover launch Potemkin. Instead, I'm going to cover Potemkin in Season 3.75, which I consider to be the best representation of Potemkin in Guilty Gear Strive. Talk about what Strive kept and got rid of. Danger Time. Thank you. And Blitz Shield, that was also gone. We also got rid of the 25 meter RCs like YRC, and YRC became an alpha parry that pushes back the opponent on hit. We got Red RC, which gave a turn on hit. Blue RC slowed down for offense or combo, and PRC would allow you to cancel your recovery or start up for either approaching or faking plays. Burst now goes full screen, and Gold now gives positive bonus instead of a full 100 meter. The movement was changed to be more grounded compared to classic Guilty Gear, making the dashes slower and the aerial movement a little sluggish to use. Personally, I don't like anime movement, and as someone who's played Potemkin, aka someone that doesn't have an air dash, I like this, but that's just my view. Wall breaks were added, and this was a sick mechanic, as it let you cash out for a ton of damage to either go back to neutral or you'd use your meter for a hard knockdown. Wild Assault also led to hard knockdown, but we do not talk about those days. I like to refer to that point as the dark age. With blocking, they also introduced IBFDing, which gave you this much pushback, which made it a very solid defensive tool. Guard crushes were also added, which got rid of fuzzy guarding, and fuzzy guarding made it so you could defend multiple options all at once. I've talked about this before multiple times. This made defense a bit rough in this game, as characters got 50-50 guaranteed strike throw, so it was a questionable design. Personally, I like it because I hate throw protection. It's dumb and stinky. As a Tekken player, I don't understand it. So I'm biased here, honestly. It was very questionable in a 2D fighter. Now that we know it's different, let's talk about the boy himself, Strive Potemkin 3.75. Potemkin and Strive had a journey going from sucky with awesome execution to a solid character that functions extremely well with that fun execution. Like mentioned before, this was the most balanced version of the character, but let's get into what was new. We got 2 new specials and a new mechanic entirely that made Potemkin extremely unique compared to the rest of the roster. And this thing gave Potemkin heads a sense of euphoria as they love execution. They really do. Go in that Discord, you'll see, they love that shit. This was the famed Kara Cancel. This made all your moves have more reach and gave back Mega Fist a new property. Caraback Mega Fist was almost its own special move. It gave you loops that you had to get good with if you wanted extreme damage. We were also given super cancels on Hammerfall Break, which means that you could do Hammerfall Heavenly or Gigantor. Potemkin was given so much sauce in his base kit that we've already seen a buff to every single move without diving into what any of the moves could be. This is insanity! Let's get into his new moves, Garuda and Heat Tackle. Garuda gave Potemkin a tool that let him run 50-50 strike throw without having to deal with throw protection. You can Kara cancel this. I love Kara, Charlie! I love Kara! On hit, it would lead to a guaranteed Potemkin buster, and on counter hit, you could link 2 of them for a good chunky bit of damage. Garuda was an insane tool to use. In some meaties you can land 2 on block, and this cranked risk. This was a scary tool to mess with. But to get into his other new special move, he got Heat Tackle, which allowed him to essentially stop air stalling by supermaning their way to the opponent. It was niche, but it was a use needed for matchups like Bedman, Zato, and Jacko. But let's get into the changes to make Strive Potemkin Potemkin Buster evolved again, and depending on who you ask, this move's either gone better or worse. It became a little slower, and the reach didn't go as far. I tell you that Kara. I love Karas. Then it had the reach that Accent Core looks at with slight jealousy, but he's not that jealous due to Accent Core knowing that he has good reach on Pop Buster and comes out in 3 frames. But let's peep the damage on it. That was a lot of damage. That's almost half their health. You can't combo anymore, which was the sad part, and it didn't lead to Oki unless you did a frame perfect Kara Hammerfall and a frame perfect break for a frame perfect 5p meaty. Yeah, so Oki didn't exist on Pop Buster unless you were cracked. His damage was amazing. That's what he became in this game. He could easily 2-touch any character in most scenarios. Corner Potemkin Buster actually did give Oki, allowing you to close slash OTG for a guaranteed Garuda that would also set up for another guaranteed Garuda. So overall, Garuda and Potemkin Buster were best friends. They were a cute couple and I shipped them. In terms of offense, oh my god, that Pop Buster did so much in terms of leeway and giving you stealing opportunities. The Slide Head, it got rid of its unblockable property. This was gone and it became a full screen low that led to hard knockdown on any scenario. You couldn't get Oki on every scenario, but you could still knock down the opponent to make an approach. They also traded it and gave it a bit of armor, meaning he can kind of use this as an anti-tool to gain Oki up close if he thinks he can use it defensively. But yeah, to talk about Mega Fist a bit, they made it so it was a slight knockdown on hit, meaning you could do Kara Garuda for a chase out, but the opponent can backdash, so they gave up a ton of space to go back to neutral. Gave it a slight knockdown, made it so much better than being minus on hit like it was on launch. And then of course Karabacks gave the funny loops. Back Mega Fist was also very hard to catch and was used defensively, and on counter hit gave you very nice combos. Still a tool I miss to this day. Come back to me, back Mega Fist. Hammerfall changed to be less minus on block, and with RC you can guarantee a Garuda for a 50-50, however, the glorious break that the old heads loved to use was minus in scenarios at neutral and on offense after blocking a move. Now it has a ton of recovery, making it punishable up close, and it cannot be used for resets. It was sad to see my goat so washed. We only used this to run Oki, so rest in peace my goat. Pouring out a cold one for the boys. Heat Knuckle, they got rid of the extend as he automatically does it now. This gets rid of the Oki again, but it optimized for damage, and it instantly wall breaks. So if you're in a situation where you couldn't combo off of a stray normal, like 5p into the Mega Fist routes that you want to do, you did 5p into Heat Knuckle for a wall break. Not getting Oki sucked, but there was a clear understanding of the tool, and you were well aware that you could use Garuda or Heat Tackle for a hard knockdown instead. So the tool had its purposes, and the other thing that it gained is that instead of being unblockable that led to guaranteed damage, it was now a guard crush that pulled the opponent in, leading it for a guaranteed 50-50 strike throw. It was guaranteed, so to some people this was either a buff for the 50-50, or it was a nerf because nothing was guaranteed. It's up to you to decide. ICBM and Trishlet also disappeared from his toolkit. This was to allow for Kara's. It's kind of sad that two moves had to go, when I feel like they could have been experimented on, and ICBM essentially got replaced with Heat Tackle, which is a grounded version of the move. Flick essentially stayed the same besides not keeping its reach. It doesn't reach that far anymore. Is that season? Also, White Wild Assault was a mechanic given to Potemkin, and this allowed them to get in some matchups as it had iframes on 9 and further on. Allowed him to get on the matchups like Asuka, who gave him a hell of a time unless he had White Wild Assault available. His supers were straight gas. The Aegis Reflector, the Gigantor Kai, now became what it is today, getting rid of the iframes and replacing it for utility, and it travels so damn far. Best of luck getting in on this, and it did high damage on raw hits, so if you were a neutral, you had to be careful. You were so back, lads. The next super was the Heavenly, and its animation was glorious, still by far one of the best supers in the game. Offense, this tool was perfect for calling out jump outs after Hammerfall. He became a monster that was not worth jumping and not worth standing still. Welcome to the guest zone, where the answer was you. Potemkin felt more intimidating. In this version of the game, he had clear weaknesses like being slow, break not being able to use a nurture offense, and having committal answers to zoners. Kara's were a fun execution barrier, and there were so many ways to optimize your Potemkin. It felt like every Potemkin player kind of had their own Build-A-Bear Potemkin. For example, when it came to me, I had the reverse JD tech and taunt busters. That's what kind of separated me from the other Potemkins. And someone like Andros was optimal beyond disgust. Frankentank was a monster that loved spamming Mega Fist in any scenario. Not Frankentank. Wanted Frankie was a madman that liked doing Mega Fist in any scenario. So it felt like everybody had their own Potemkin. It was kinda beautiful. This was his best design in terms of balance, and he was the coolest to fight with, and he was terrifying. He was just terrifying. He did everything. Then the Season 4 attacked. Potemkin changed, and I won't get into the launch of Season 4 as I've covered it multiple times on the channel, with my reaction to the changes and everything. I will talk about when they gave Kara's back though. They changed Potemkin into almost another version of him, like playing MK10 with stances. So what changed? Before we get into the new changes, let's have something that suits this version of Potemkin. Yes, that's right, my custom skin I got modded and I had to do it, you know how it is. They made his toolkit to work without Kara's and then brought back Kara's. Overtuned them with reach and versatility on all of his tools. Karaback Mega Fist loops were gone, but instead of it being used as a combo tool, you now used it as an offensive tool, as it became +1 on block, evaded 6Ps and pokes, and on counter hit led to a combo. Also led to an all-time Pot Buster. Speaking of Pot Buster, it was given Oki, which was awesome, but I don't know if it was necessary due to the damage it did. It also had a really strong reach because they made the reach stronger, and then mix that with Kara's coming back. He could grab from a far distance now. And then it leads into the next option that makes it so the opponent can't play the game on defense in terms of poking, and that was the armor added on frame 5. That's right, Potemkin Buster's an armored tool now. You couldn't challenge, and you could only backdash and jump after plus normals. Potemkin was kinda disgusting if I'm honest. And Hammerfall became more minus on block, but it got its break back from Axard and Accent Core. It's not the same, but it still had really good recovery, allowing for the Oki, like mentioned before, and allowed for some combo reset opportunities into Potemkin Buster. Also, they gave armor on the break, so sequences like this could happen. Hammerfall break also led to new combo routings that were great for damage and Oki, so in every scenario Potemkin could always get Oki. Slide Head went from being neutral on block to plus 10 on block and a guard crush, meaning if you use this as a perfect read and the opponent blocked it, was your turn for a 50-50 on a low that guard crushed and also did damage now. So it chipped. Slide Head became juiced as counter hit punishable on whiff, so that was actually pretty good. Also, your 6H got a new property, meaning that instead of doing carry back Mega Fist loops, you did 6H loops because of the wall bounce. So that is what the optimals were now. It was doing as many 6Hs as you can in a combo now. Key Knuckle got more damage. Flick also became a god tier tool that can be used for poking, as it practically had no heart box and it could flick almost every projectile. Have fun playing fast. And Garuda became a projectile. Now you're probably wondering, this means nothing, right? Well, it means a ton. Counter hit disappeared, but it meant that it didn't clash cancel. Meaning if you space this against a DP, you would trade or beat the DP. This was very strong. This was very, very strong. Potemkin also got Blue Wild Assault instead of White Wild Assault. This was the only character to get a change like this, and it was fun and creative. This actually gave Potemkin a ton of creativity. But the problem was, he was the best user of it, as it allowed for all-time pop busters and hit confirms to lead to a pop buster. So normal hits led to a pop buster, aka damage, Oki, and some of the best corner scenarios in the game. I like this Potemkin a lot. Missing Carback Mega Fist definitely sucks in terms of the combo loops, but this version of Potemkin is certainly cool and very fun. He allows for a ton of creativity in terms of like what you're going to do with all your tools, because there wasn't really a bad option to pick on this version of Potemkin. But he was too powerful. He's able to overpower a large majority of the roster, and I think he only really loses to 2 characters in this patch. If I was to hit him, I'd probably tone down his Oki, damage, and armor. These are the 3 things that need hit because all of them are a bit too ridiculous. But it's hard to do that because his sauce is so cool in this version, and I don't want to give it up. That's me being honest. I don't want to give up the top tier sauce, right? I'm not going to bullshit you and be all like, oh, he needs it. I don't know if he needs it. I just like it. This is reverse JD setups, which kind of killed my personality a bit on Potemkin, and I didn't want to do taunt busters anymore because he wasn't a mid tier or low tier, aka I felt bad doing this to people now. But visually, this mod looks sick though. 20 big booms. Scotland, lads! Scotland! There we go. We've evolved multiple times to lead Potemkin to be the top tier that he is now. With his different design and his different offensive structure, he's probably the most polarizing character to play depending on the game that you pick up. Literally going back to Missing Link and not being able to do a single combo, and the offense felt crap, and the pop buster felt weird, and everything was techable. Just felt awful. It just felt awful. And then going to Strive, where you had all the tools in the world extremely optimized, it felt nice. And playing Accent Core, that game just feels good. And in my opinion, Accent Core is like the best classic Guilty Gear in my opinion. That one is just the best. It feels the best, without a doubt. I hope you guys enjoyed this long video. I put a ton of effort into this, and I hope you guys like and subscribe, all that good stuff. And I hope you guys tell me what your favorite version of Potemkin was, how he evolved, and maybe talk about some of the versions I didn't cover, as I only wanted to cover mainline Potemkins. But what's next? As we know, I'm working on the next Grappler deep dive, actually, so that'll be coming out very soon. Maybe give me a couple of weeks on that. I'm also going to be working on some more skits, as I really enjoy skits. I think they're super fun to work with. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you do, tell me who might need a Grappler evolution, and don't say Zangief. He has way too many iterations for the exact same gameplay. Yeah, fellas, I hope you have a good day. I'm peacing out, and that's Patriarch Panda. I'm gonna go get a cup of tea, because my throat's dying. Peace out. See ya!